Hello, everyone, and welcome to Optimus Fantasy Football. It's Friday, and of course, that means that I am here with Mike, the moneymaker, Reedy, to give you the best DFS plays as we approach Week 14 of NFL football. This week is significant, Mike, if you're a season-long player, because the fantasy playoffs start next week. Some of these plays for DFS are going to be good plays for your fantasy lineups as well. So if you're watching this and do both, keep that in mind as we're talking through these guys. If we like them in DFS, there's a good chance we like them in situations in season long as well. Mike, Week 14 is going to be an interesting one. We do get the return of Jaden Daniels in Washington. We get the return of JJ McCarthy in Minnesota. We get no Drake London in Atlanta. Trey Benson, Marvin Harrison, and Greg Dortch have been ruled out. For the
Romo Duns as well, by the way.
Romo Dunze has been ruled out as well. And if you want more about this stuff, you can see the ticker underneath us. Go over to news.optimusfantasy.com on Blue Sky. Carly Manger runs the account, and she is dropping the news as it happens. We're the fastest account on Blue Sky. I can say that with confidence because I watched her beat Diana Rossini with the Jaden Daniel news by a full 5 minutes on Blue Sky today. So if you want the most up-to-the-minute news, make sure you're following that account and set notifications. It'll help you stay on top of everything that your league mates are missing. And with that, Mike, let's get into this slate here, and we're going to start with the quarterback position. And the first one I want to talk about is probably the most unlikely one, Tyler Shuck over in New Orleans. They're up against Tampa Bay this week, though, Mike, and they give up the third most fantasy points to the quarterback position. He's $4,600 on DraftKings and $6,600 on FanDuel. This is a really odd play, but you're paying down for a guy that has upside in this matchup this week.
I do believe we talked about him last week too, and then he produced, right? Yep. The Buccaneers have given up 10 touchdowns over the past 4 games. So I think you already mentioned, right? Third most fantasy points to opposing teams' quarterbacks.
Yep.
Quarterbacks average 239 yards and 2 touchdowns. Oh, nope, sorry. Shuck had 239 yards and 2 touchdowns, right? We had him as a play last week.
Yep.
I like him a lot, especially at price. I think he's a great play. And somebody we talked about a lot last year that we were hoping on the waiver wire show would take off. I think you could stack him with Devon Vele, right?
Absolutely.
So I like Shuck a lot at the price point. I do already have him in a lineup, by the way, in a pool for on FanDuel right now. So I think he's a really good play again this week. I think we're looking at another game like that, 230-ish yards and a couple of touchdowns. Again, he's not super exciting or anything like that. I don't ever think the guy's going to give you 40 points, but he's been really solid in good matchups, and this is a good matchup.
Well, yeah, like you said, he had 20 points last week. He had 20 points against Carolina in week 10. This is a good matchup. I think he's a solid play, help you pay down in other places. Plus, I like the idea of that cheap stack with Vele. We liked him in Denver. We loved Vele in Denver.
We loved him last year on the waiver wire when no one was adding him but you and I.
Yep. Oh, 100%. All right, the next one. This one shouldn't be a surprise. Josh Allen of the Buffalo Bills are up against the Bengals this week. This one is trending towards being a shootout. It has the highest over-under on the slate this week at 53.5. Allen is $7,700 on DraftKings, $9,200 on FanDuel. And Mike, the Bengals are giving up the 6th most fantasy points to quarterbacks, and Josh Allen's the best one in the league.
He is. It's a high price to pay, but there's other places you can pay down this week, right? If you wanted to play him, this is one of those weeks where it looks like he could probably throw for a touchdown and run for a touchdown, or throw for 2 touchdowns and run for 2 touchdowns. It's the Bengals. Their defense, 6th most fantasy points of quarterbacks, right? And you can run on them, and he runs a lot. So I think I like the running back as well, but I really like him a lot this week, even at the price point. I don't like to pay up for quarterback usually, but it's a good week to pay up for him if you want to pay up.
Well, unlike Shuck, I mean, realistically, Josh Allen's a guy who could put up 40 points in this match.
Yeah, it's funny as you said that, I was getting tempted to say, this one is a guy who could score 40 points this week.
Yeah.
So the payment's worth it. Yeah.
He really is. And look, the Bengals could keep up in this one too, which could push this game even higher to a point where we're not seeing.
Burrow back. Yeah.
We're still going to see a lot of James Cook, and we're going to get some of those big plays from him. But volume wise, it might be a little lower for Cook. We might see Allen throw 40 passes in this game because Burrow's going to push it down the field, which those are the kind of matchups I like for quarterbacks, especially guys like Josh Allen with the rushing upside. Jordan Love is the next one we're going to talk about, Mike. The only reason I like this one on the late slate at all is because they're up against the Bears. The Bears have struggled against quarterbacks lately. Right now, they've given up the 8th most fantasy points to the position. He's cheap too, $5,900 on DraftKings, $7,400 on FanDuel. Not a lot to pay for a guy who at least has a solid floor against a defense who's giving up points to the position.
So last week he had 4 touchdowns and 234 yards. The Bears give up 235 yards and 2 touchdowns a game. You can throw on them. Love's going to throw on them. I like him a lot. And there's some good with both of those guys. There's plays you can stack. All 3 guys, actually. There's plays you can stack as well, building a good lineup if you want. So, yeah, I'm pretty high on Jordan Love this week. I don't think I was high enough on him last week, man, with the 4 touchdowns.
Yeah, I don't think I was either. He's been so meh, so often this season.
When you look at the schedule, that can tell us why the schedule wasn't as friendly as it is right now. And
yep, it's going to get much friendlier. This is a team with playoff aspirations. This is a division game against a team that is actually in the lead in the NFC right now. If the playoffs started today, as weird as it sounds, the Bears would have the bye. So this is a big game for both teams. And there are other matchups on the slate I feel the same way about here. Things that I wrote about in our higher lower article, which is live on optimusfantasy.com right now. But this could be a high scoring game. If the Bears can score points, they can get Monangai rolling. If they can get Swift rolling, if they can get, DJ Moore, really, Luther Burden rolling, Colson Loveland has looked better of late. If this offense can score points and push Jordan Love to throw the ball more, I think it's good for this, and especially at the price point. I think this is a fantastic play, Mike. All right, now we're going to move on to running backs on this Week 14 slate. The first one we're going to talk about here is James Cook of the Buffalo Bills. Of course, we already referenced him a little bit here. They're up against the Bengals, who give up the most fantasy points to running backs. He's high priced, Mike, as he should be. $7,800 on DraftKings, $9,300 on FanDuel. But this is a guy who has looked like the overall RB1 lately, especially with Jonathan Taylor seeing a dip in volume and production.
And this is the defense that is the funneliest of run funnel defenses, right? Like, you can run all over the Bengals. I really like this play a lot this week. I have him in a lot of lineups right now. Anybody listening in my 2 cash leagues is going to know what I'm playing from this show. He's almost a must start this week, in my opinion, in DFS. Like, he should be really chalky even at that price point because, they give up the most fantasy points to running backs, and he's destroyed run funnel defenses like this. Just destroyed them.
Well, he's James Cook. He's better than his older brother. I'm going to say I really do truly believe he's a better running back than Dalvin was. No shade on Dalvin, just speaking to the talent of James Cook. And I'm willing, this is a guy where I don't care if he's chalky, I'm still going to pay up for him because he's one of those pay up chalk players that you want to have. Because when he goes off, you don't want to be behind those points if he goes off at all. It's going to make it much harder to win any money. Now, the other side of this one, the Bills are giving up the 3rd most points to running backs, and Chase Brown on the Bengals side, he's been really good as of late. The effectiveness of the passing game has really opened up the run game, even though it's a bad line in Cincinnati, and that hasn't changed. But he's $6,700 on DraftKings, $7,300 on FanDuel, and in this matchup, Mike, I feel like Chase Brown is a guy who's capable of logging a top 5 finish at running back because of what we talked about before, where this could be a very high scoring game. And we've seen Brown get targeted in the passing game as well. So there's that PPR upside, just like with James Cook.
You may or may not remember about 6 weeks ago, I said, wait till the schedule lightens up on run defenses for the Bengals. Chase Brown's going to be somebody everybody's going to want because the second half of the season, he only had 2 tough run defenses he was up against. So this is an easy matchup. The Bills give up the third most fantasy points to running backs. He has had 6 straight weeks double-digit fantasy scores. 6 straight weeks. Over 100 total yards in each of those games. You're going to see that again now. I know some analysts were talking like P. Ryan was going to eat into his carries. P. Ryan had 16 touches last week and didn't impact Chase Brown's production at all, and it won't this week either. He's a great play. Another one. It's not as high as James Cook, but it's still pretty high. I'm paying up at running back and everywhere, to be honest, this week. There's 4 guys I like, and I know we're probably going to talk about all 4 of them.
Yep. Well, it's that time of year. Well, it's that time of year where it gets cold. The teams tend to start to lean into the run more if there's bad weather games. We see these running backs get more comfortable. I like this play a lot too. I like this next one too. Devon Achane, or as I like to call him, the entirety of the Miami Dolphins offense, Mike. The Jets are giving up the 5th most points to fantasy running backs. He's not cheap. He's $8,800 on DraftKings and $9,200 on FanDuel. But given this matchup, 100% worth the pay up here if you're paying down other places.
So if they're behind, they're throwing him the football. If they're up, he's running the football. Doesn't matter what they're doing. Yep. He's touching the football. He just really, I mean, good God, he has over 20 touches running the football in 3 straight games. He's got 6, 7, 5 targets most games. Last week, I think he only had like 1. But it's insane the amount of touches he gets every game. It's 20-something touches. I'm paying up for him. He's the 3rd one out of the 4 that I was saying, like, I'm paying up at running back this week. Those 3 guys I'm playing them all over the place. And one other guy I think we're talking about as well. I'm playing as many places as I can too.
So I think the one you were referencing, Mike, is Quinshon Judkins.
It is. He's the 4th.
Well, and for good reason. Look, they're up against the Titans, giving up the 6th most points to fantasy running backs. $6,400 on DraftKings, $7,900 on FanDuel, so he's a pay down at least on DraftKings. But then look at this line. The last 4 games since he came back. Well, the last 4 games since their bye, I'm sorry. 22 carries, 17 carries, 16 carries, 23 carries. He has 2 touchdowns. They're lining him up in Wildcat with Shedeur Sanders.
Yes, and they throw him the short pass because Shedeur Sanders can't really throw an intermediate pass. Yep. So he had 3 targets and 3 catches last week for 26 total touches, right? The Titans give up 103 yards and a touchdown weekly to running backs as well. He's just in a smash spot, and I'm not a Shedeur Sanders guy. Anybody who follows me on Twitter can see me making fun of him because people think he's really good. He's not, but they dumb down the plays in a way that benefits like Harold Fannin and Quinshon Judkins a lot. And that meant the touch tree went down to like 2 or 3 guys. And I'm big time in favor of that for fantasy. So I really like Quinshon Judkins this week. I like what they've done play calling wise since they plugged Sanders in.
Yeah, me too. It benefits Judkins. It benefits, of course. It benefits Judkins a ton. Big fan of Judkins. I'm a big fan of Harold Fannin this week, though we're not going to talk about him here. But in season long, I think he's a solid flex play if you're looking for someone to chase. All right. That's going to do it for the running backs, Mike. That's everyone we wanted to touch on. So let's get over to the wide receiver position. The first one we're going to talk about, this is a stack opportunity with Christian Watson. Again, this is late slate, but they're up against the Bears, who are giving up the 3rd most points to fantasy wide receivers. Watson is $5,200 on DraftKings, and he's $6,200 on FanDuel. And like, since coming back, we've seen Christian Watson kind of take over a wide receiver 1 role in this offense. I said on the show with Casey yesterday, I'll believe it when I see it one more time. But if he does it this week, I'm on board. But for the pay down and the stack with Jordan Love in this game specifically, I like this play a lot this week.
I like it as well this week for the pay down. I'm not a firm believer that Christian Watson sticks forever, and that's because they spread the ball around. But they've had some injuries too, which have removed some pass catchers. So the branches on the tree have been trimmed, right? So there's not as many guys. He had 10 targets, a 33% target share last week, right? He wasn't uber efficient. He caught 4 but those 4 he had 80 yards and a touchdown. So like I like that. I'll take that because I think that's what he can do. Dontavian Wicks was really good last week too. He's dinged up and questionable though this week as well. This is a great place. Elementary, my dear Watson. Everything adds up to make him a great play this week. And the price point's nice. Allows you to pay up at running back, by the way.
Oh, I love the price point. The price point's phenomenal. Yeah, and look, last week, there's bad targets. That's what you're going to get from Jordan Love. I do like him to score a touchdown. I like the high volume in this game. He's had 3 touchdowns in the last 3 weeks. So I think this is a really good play. And stacking him with Love could end up being like kind of a little diamond in the rough play this week if this game goes the way I think it's going to go.
Pretty much both teams feel they must win it. So it should be an awesome game, right? Like I think that's going to be a really fun game to watch. I think the Packers defense is a little bit better than the Bears defense, but
just slightly.
Yeah, you can throw in the Bears. That's why I like this a lot. It's a great stack.
Yep, it is a great stack. All right, Jakobi Meyers. We're going to talk about him now. He's in Jacksonville, no longer with the Las Vegas Raiders. They're up against the Colts, Mike, who are giving up the 9th most points to fantasy wide receivers. $5,700 on DraftKings, $6,100 on FanDuel. An opportunity to pay down slightly at wide receiver. And he played really well last week, and I don't like this offense a ton. But he's had 6 targets in 3 consecutive games. He's had a touchdown in 2 consecutive games. He's to the point now where he has an 80-plus snap share in every game, and that's with Brian Thomas Jr. on the field. So this isn't going anywhere. This is another situation like we talked about with this last one where this is a must-win game for both of these teams, right? They're tied at 8-4. They're tied for the lead in the division. This could be the tiebreaker. They'll play each other one more time later in the season. But this game means a lot.
They're 2 teams no one thought would be good this year, and they're both good.
Yep.
Colts and the Jaguars. And even though I don't love the Jaguars offense, there's some chemistry here between Lawrence and Myers. And somebody dropped Myers off of the 6 season-long teams he had before the Raiders traded him, and that would be me. And now I have no shares of Myers in season-long. But last week, 22% target share, 6 targets, 6 receptions, 90 yards, and a touchdown. He is the top option in that offense now. It's him and Strange, right? Like it's amazing how it's moved from BTJ through Parker Washington, and now it seems to be Myers and Strange. And really, for a guy who's the number 1 option on his team, and probably going to see 6 to 10 targets, 5,700 on DraftKings, 6,100 on FanDuel against a defense you can and you have to throw on, the Colts. I like it a lot. I really think it's a good opportunity.
Yeah. Well, in their run game, like if we're going to be completely honest, it's not great. Mitchell Tootin flashes here and there. Travis Etienne's mid, as far as I'm concerned. So I do like this play a lot, especially at cost. All right, next up, Mike. Cortland Sutton of the Denver Broncos. They're up against the hated Las Vegas Raiders. They give up a lot of points to fantasy wide receivers. Cortland Sutton's only $5,600 on DraftKings this week. He is $6,300 on FanDuel. I like this to be a high volume week for Sutton. We're seeing the team lose confidence in Troy Franklin because he cannot block to save his freaking life. And it's almost gotten Nick's killed a couple of times.
That may be what saves Sutton, right? Because it appears one of them will see the most targets, but they won't split it up in a way that makes sense that they could both produce. I like Sutton a lot this week. You can throw on the Raiders. Their defense isn't good. That team's just spiraling out of control. It's a hot mess. So I think it's a good play. The only way I would say it wouldn't be is if Franklin becomes something this time. Like last time they played the Raiders, Franklin led the team in targets. But it's so sporadic, like it's totally shifted back to Sutton.
Well, and we're at a point now, too, where we're watching guys like Pat Bryant get the volume instead of Franklin, but it's not affecting Sutton, right?
No, it's not affecting Sutton at all, which is good.
Yeah. Speaking of, Pat Bryant has 13 targets over the last 2 weeks. So I know, which is, again, it's not eating into Sutton's volume. It's just cutting into Franklin, into Marvin Mims as well, because he's got the fumble drop problems.
He could end up a nice play if you really want to cheap out somewhere at wide receiver too. But
yeah, I don't trust it. I don't trust Sean Payton. This is a hot button topic here. We've got people all over on every side of the fence. Justin Jefferson this week against the Commanders, who are giving up the 5th most fantasy points to wide receivers. 6,900 on DraftKings, 8,100 on FanDuel. Here's the debate, Mike. Even though this is a good matchup, JJ McCarthy has been so bad.
I know.
But
so when I added him to the list, I had him as a debate. Like, well, what do you mean? Well, it's a great matchup, and it's definitely going to be against the green because I'm not playing Justin Jefferson anywhere, even though I added him to the list. If Max Brosmer was the quarterback, he couldn't even be on the list as a potential play. But he has not sucked with J.J. McCarthy. He hasn't been spectacular, but he hasn't sucked. I looked at this as like a 15-ish point type of play this week. And if you wanted to go against the green somewhere, I think that's a good place to do it because he's probably still going to get you 15 points or so because the Commanders don't defend the pass well at all.
Yeah. I mean, he's had some really good games. He's had 2 good games with McCarthy. I'm on this one because I think it won't be chalky. And I think there is a chance this is going to be one of those games where they're probably going to throw the ball a ton. They're going to be down, or it's going to be a tightly contested game. Jaden Daniels is starting, so he can push the ball down the field. He's going to force Minnesota to push it. Results may vary, but I think there's a good chance that we see Justin Jefferson get like 12 to 15 targets. Maybe 5 or 6 of them are decent enough that he can actually grab the ball. Maybe one of them is a red zone target, so he can score a freaking touchdown. If we get 5 for 100 and a touchdown from Jefferson, that's 21 fantasy points, and I'm happy as a freaking clam. If we get 5 for 100, we don't get a touchdown, we get 15, still very pleased because that's better than I think most people think they can get out of him this week. But I can see it happening.
I'm quite certain that Justin Jefferson's Christmas list was, what do you want for Christmas? Sam Darnold. I want Sam Darnold back.
Or it might have even been, just give me Carson Wentz at least. Please,
I was going to say,
Carson Wentz.
Did you ever think we'd say we missed Carson Wentz? But we missed Carson Wentz. I do think the volume's going to be there, and I don't think the defense is good this week. I do think he's very playable, and he will not be chalked. People are going to avoid like the plague.
No. Well, and look, their running game consists of Aaron Jones, who is showing his age at an extremely rapid pace, and Jordan Mason, who without that 1B running back is ineffective because he does one thing well.
Run straight ahead. Yeah,
that's all he can do. You stack the line when you know it's a run play, and you call it a day. And it's a
great matchup for that run game by the Vikings too. By the way, and notice we didn't talk about it at all because
I don't care.
Yeah.
Nope. All right, let's flip over to tight ends, which I think we do care about
a lot.
First, a lot. And back to this Indy and Jacksonville matchup. Tyler Warren. The Jaguars are giving up the 2nd most fantasy points to tight ends, 5,000 on DraftKings, $6,300 on FanDuel for the rookie. Daniel Jones is playing with a broken fibula, which has me about 7 spots lower than consensus on him in my rankings this week. But the one I don't think that affects is Tyler Warren because of the type of targets we see Warren get.
I think it helps him, actually.
It actually does help Warren. It hurts Josh Downs, which is, can you hurt him anymore? And I think it really does hurt Alec Pierce this week.
Oh, yes.
So I'm still going to start him in a flex because I think if he gets 2 deep targets, great.
The matchup's actually tough for the wide receivers this week. So the Jaguars' defense is pretty good. They cover wide receivers really well. They do not cover tight ends really well. And when we were as you were saying, I was factoring in the injury as well. Plus, Warren's coming off of 2 tough games where he didn't break 10 fantasy points in either one, but they were teams that defended tight ends exceptionally well. Yeah. So it's another place where, most people are very reactionary. They're not proactive in regards to their thinking. They're playing whatever the guy did the last week or the week before.
Right.
This is a great matchup. His quarterback's probably going to rely on him because of all the factors we mentioned. I think play calling is going to favor Tyler Warren this week because of those things.
Yep, I agree. Big Tyler Warren week. Now, on the other side of this one is Brenton Strange. The Colts defense gives up the 4th most points to fantasy tight ends, wouldn't you know? $3,900 on DraftKings, $5,400 on FanDuel. Now, this is a significant pay down at tight end if you want to take it, especially down from Warren. But one of the strange things, about this Jacksonville offense is they refuse to feature Brian Thomas Jr., but a guy like Brenton Strange, who was like a 3rd-round tight end, he's in his 3rd year out of Penn State, has 9 targets over the last 2 weeks. He has an 84% snap share. He had 93 yards in week 12, and then he has 45 yards and a touchdown in week 13. He's relevant to a point where he could be a top 8 to 10 tight end. I've seen him ranked as high as tight end 5 in some rankings. And
People went cuckoo.
DFS.
People went cuckoo with him in season long on the waiver wire after last week when they probably should have added him prior to last week. It's a great matchup this week too, right? For him, you're going to see more volume than the 3 or 4 targets probably this week, and he's going to
definitely.
He's going to produce yet again.
Yep. No, I love this play. Kyle Pitts is our last tight end, Mike, up against the Seahawks, who I don't think Atlanta's going to be able to do much against them, but the Seahawks do give up the 5th most fantasy points to tight ends. This is one avenue where we've seen Kirk Cousins targeting Kyle Pitts more than Michael Penix was. $4,200 on DraftKings, $5,300 on FanDuel. I like this. There's not a lot to like, but it is notable. Drake London's out again this week. So
and last week, Pitts had 8 targets, 7 receptions, and 82 yards. So we're looking at a game like that again. And if he can manage to score a touchdown, it turns into a spectacular play. He's on my only dynasty team. He is my starting tight end this week. He was last week too. He's gonna produce. He's not the darling he was his rookie season anymore, but they don't have very many options, right? They just don't.
Yep. And we were going to talk about Dalton Kincaid here, but he's looking unlikely to play. So I left him off the list. However, if he does play, I don't hate this matchup. I mean, again, it's against the Bengals. Right now, he is priced $4,300 on DraftKings, $5,800 on FanDuel. They give up the most points to tight ends. And if he's in there, I just feel like we see 8 to 10 targets for Kincaid if he plays.
If he doesn't play, it's probably a good pivot to Dawson Knox because the tight ends average 93 yards and a touchdown against the Bengals. Yeah. Like Patriots fans, I watched the game against the Bengals with friends, and they were all like, oh, my God, why aren't we doing this with Hunter Henry every game? I'm like, because we don't play the Bengals every game. And they're like, what? I'm like, the Bengals get destroyed by tight ends every week. How do you know this? And I'm like, oh, some of you guys don't know what I do for a side gig. Okay.
Never mind.
I'm like, never mind. But, I'm a nerd. That's how I know it. But, yeah. So Dawson Knox will become in play and a much cheaper play at tight end. If that's the case, it'll be too bad. It would be nice to see Dalton Kincaid out on the field. Oh, well.
I'd like to see – dude, my season-long teams need him really bad. But Dawson Knox is $2,800 on DraftKings. So, yeah, that is a very good pay down at tight end if you want to take it. All right, the ultimate place to pay down, fantasy defenses on DFS, and we've got some for you for week 14. We won't spend a lot of time on these because you probably don't spend a lot of time thinking about it, so we'll do it for you. The Commanders defense up against this Vikings offense with J.J. McCarthy. He's turning the ball over at a rapid rate. He's getting sacked like crazy because their line's bad. As much as I'm interested in Justin Jefferson this week, I'm more interested in this Commanders defense, especially at the price. This is a great play, Mike.
It's really cheap. The Vikings have given up 48 fantasy points to opposing teams' defenses over the past 2 games. I know last week was kind of an anomaly, and it was like 30 points, but against a great defense. I don't think the Commanders are a great defense. I just think the Vikings are so pathetic. They had to be to suppress the Titans as the number 1 team to pick on, right? So the Commanders are a really good play this week. Lots of people may be playing them. The price point's so low on DraftKings that I'm not avoiding it either.
Nope. No way. No, I'm playing a lot of them. I'm also going to play a lot of the Browns defense, as we just talked about the Titans. The Browns are up against the Titans this weekend. $3,700 on DraftKings, $4,900 on FanDuel. It's a little bit of a pay up, but we know what this defense does, and it's worth the money.
Titans average, defense's average is 4 sacks a week against the Titans. Browns are going to get after them. That's what's going to happen. They stop the run really well, and they're going to get some sacks because the offensive line's really bad for the Titans.
And they have Myles Garrett.
There's not much more to say, right? Like it's a good. This is a better defense against another crappy offense.
Yep. And then the last one, the Buccaneers. The Saints about to make another Florida team fantasy relevant on defense this week. They're giving up the 5th most points. 2 fantasy defenses, $3,600 on DraftKings, $4,600 on FanDuel. And Tampa Bay's defense has been good this season. They haven't been great, but Shuck has been okay-ish, still making a lot of mistakes. They're without Alvin Kamara. They're without Kendre Miller. Something's off about Chris Olave. This offense is just hurting. We hardly saw any Taysom Hill last week. I feel like Tampa Bay, division game, they need a get-right game. They're going to beat up on this offense, and it's going to get ugly, and I like this play a lot, Mike.
They beat the living hell out of the Saints in week 8 and scored 26 fantasy points. Different quarterback now, but the team's even worse overall than it was then. So it's a really good play. I had a write up on Twitter, a thread that went nuts where I talked about adding the Buccaneers and the Saints defenses for the fantasy playoffs. And the Buccaneers have good matchups the rest of the way. This is one of them. We're looking at easy 8 to 10 fantasy points for the floor, and the ceiling could be obnoxiously high.
Yeah. Oh, I completely agree. I love this play. I'm probably not going to roster a lot of the Browns defense just because it'll probably be pretty chalky in this matchup. But I'll go Commanders for the cost. If they're a little bit chalky, I'm fine with it. And Tampa Bay, same thing.
The other cheap one I like is the Dolphins. I didn't plug them in anywhere for us to talk about. Dolphins play the Jets. Dolphins defense is like 3 out of the last 4 games, double-digit fantasy points, and they're dirt cheap too. So there's good options this week. That's all I was going to say. Even if we didn't talk about others in detail, there's some really good options at defense.
I got that highlighted at the bottom of the show sheet, actually. $3,800 on a FanDuel for Miami.
I did
a really good
price.
So.
It's a good price.
Yep. And that's all there is to say about that. And that's all we've got for you guys this week. Thank you so much for tuning in here. Good luck in week 14, Mike.
Oh man, I need it.
I know. I can use a good winning week.
In DFS, I need it. In season long, especially in industry leagues, I'm in first place in like every single one.
Good for you.
It feels so good.
I'm playing spoiler to the player profilers Bradley Stadler this week in King's Classic. But in the Huddle Auction League with Howard Bender, Pat Fitzmaurice, and a couple other people, I am in the playoffs. I'm in like 3rd place. And
that's all I want to be. In my home leagues, I'm like 4th, 5th seed everywhere, and I don't care.
Yeah.
You win more champions out of there than you do finishing first.
Oh, 100%. Guys, and if you like winning championships, now is the perfect time to check out tools.optimusfantasy.com. Our snap analyzer tool is telling you guys who are about to break out. They're seeing those increases that no one else is seeing. Our empty air yards report is going to tell you about guys like Jordan Addison who might be seeing targets, but they're not good ones to steer clear of. You can check it out for free through the end of this NFL season, all the way through the Super Bowl, for free with the code GIFTOptimus. Head over to tools.optimusfantasy.com. Give that a check out. You're going to love it. Mike, thanks so much for joining me today. If you're listening to the audio version, guys, and you've got questions about this, head over to our Discord channel. The link's in the show description. We're happy to answer those DFS questions for you as the slate approaches. Happy Friday, everyone. For Mike Reedy, I'm Nate Polvogt, and we'll talk to you next week.